I give the floor now to the representative of the Seneca Nation.
Yabascano, Kigwego. My name is Chief Darwin Hill, Tonawanda, Seneca, also a member of the Haudenosaunee Six Nations Confederacy. I'm going to introduce or reintroduce actually and reiterate one of the recommendations that was just laid out moments ago by Will Mecklin. This is also signed on to by over 130 indigenous nations and 21 indigenous organizations. This specific recommendation that I have here today was originally introduced as part of the body of recommendations delivered at the UN Permanent Forum in 2013 and repeated again at the Permanent Forum in 2014. This recommendation was also distributed to all the member states and representatives on those days and those forums, as well as through the modern media and internet services. Indigenous peoples and their governments throughout the world are calling for the United Nations to take concrete and permanent measures to create an implementing and monitoring body to promote compliance with the Declaration and realization of the rights of indigenous peoples, and to encourage implementation of these rights by states. This is the recommendation, that the UN Conference decide to create an implementing and monitoring body with a mandate to promote and monitor implementation of the Declaration and to encourage compliance with the obligations expressed in the Declaration. Such a monitoring and implementation body should have a mandate to receive relevant information, to share best practices, to make recommendations, and otherwise work toward the objectives of the Declaration. The body should be made up of expert members, including indigenous experts. The General Assembly should, in conjunction with indigenous peoples, establish a process which would include indigenous peoples' representatives for elaborating the structure and mandate of such a body or mechanism at the earliest possible time. Recommendations for an implementing and monitoring body have also been made by the Alta Outcome Document, the Inuit and Sami people of the Nook Arctic region or Declaration, by indigenous peoples of Asia, the North American Indigenous Peoples Caucus, the Africa Regional Preparatory Meeting, and the Preparatory Meeting of the American Latin Carib, and by the Preparatory Meeting of the Pacific Indigenous Peoples. In deciding to hold the UN World Conference on Indigenous Peoples, the General Assembly explicitly decided to take action to implement the rights in the Declaration, and it is urgent that an implementing body be created within the United Nations to do this work. The need for such a body has been widely discussed in the United Nations. Implementing and monitoring body is particularly appropriate for the Declaration because it already enjoys global consensus, contains specific detailed provisions, and calls for specific state action to implement rights. We encourage the states to adopt a decision at the World Conference to create such a body and to ensure that the promises of the Declaration are not lost. We also invite other indigenous peoples in supporting this recommendation. Finally, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a note about the consultation process. I'm hoping that this meeting this afternoon, later today, and even the one later this month, will have more dialogue instead of just speeches. We need to see how we're going to be able to come together so that prior to the World Conference in September, we have a firmer grasp of all the decisions and all the ideas that will be presented at that forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much to the representative of the Seneca Nation.